So when I was a young woman in the early 80s, going out to bars and stuff, I would often go out with a friend who would let guys buy her drinks and then she would just walk off. He's like, I like that they buy me drinks. I think that's an abuse of power, an abuse of sexuality, and it's inauthentic. I never did that. I could never do that. If I let a guy buy me a drink, it's because I wanted to talk to him. That's just me. But I'm also that way with dancing. Like, I'm not going to dance with a guy unless I find him attractive enough. But, we're all very different. And I know some of the comments, people are like, well, women should pay. I mean, women should not pay. There was a post from this model I came across on Twitter, and she was writing that she's gone on 6 or 7 dates with this guy, and he keeps wanting to give her a kiss, and she's like, kiss on the cheek. And then he wanted the other cheek, and she said, one cheek only. And then she said, I've never felt so much confidence, or something like that. I'm just rephrasing. And to me, that's entitled grandiosity and an abuse of power. She's getting off on using this guy. My guess is this guy is a people pleaser and a simp, and he's thinking if he just keeps taking her out and dealing with her kind of nasty attitude, maybe he'll eventually get something more just because she's super hot. But that is a very bitchy attitude. I know someone who used to date very beautiful Ukrainian women, and these women were nasty to him. They were not nice. But my point being that I'm very suspicious when women just want the guy to pay. I'm always more suspicious, but that's just me. Oh, someone else left a comment saying that she's dating a guy who drives her and he always pays, and that's great if it works for you guys. And she seemed very authentic. I only have a problem with it if the woman is inauthentic, and the guy is only doing it to people please. Like if it's inauthentic, that's when I have a problem with it. And I think it also sets up an expectation of who's going to pay, and money is power. I think it sets up a power imbalance in the relationship, but maybe some people want that. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to like share my opinions. Another thing I want to say, there's a gentleman who leaves a lot of comments who said that when he took women out, he always paid. That's just the way it was done. I think he's an older gentleman, like maybe a few years older than I am. And that was a different economic time. There was an economic time, especially in the 70s, when people had jobs for life. People worked at companies where they had pensions after they retired, health insurance. When I got married, they were just starting to change things. They still had health insurance for the whole family, free, profit sharing, stock options. They were just shifting over, and I know a lot of people who were still working at companies where they had pensions for life when they retired, like from the railroad and other industries. And I knew many men with a high school diploma who bought a house and were providers for a whole family. Houses, like our first house, cost twice our income. That's it, twice his income. Our first house cost as much as our annual income. You can't buy a house that cheap anymore. Everything was cheaper. Health insurance was paid for by the company. Houses were really cheap. School was cheap. You could work your way through school and pay tuition. Healthcare, education, housing were very cheap. Men could provide for a whole family, and women's wages were still very low. Women had just started entering the workforce in greater numbers, but their financial success was still somewhat limited, and there was more of a focus on stay-at-home moms. But I think financially, men really felt like they could provide, and it was easy to provide. And times have really changed. Women are now out earning men. The cost of everything has gone up, and so I think a lot of men just they can't afford to be the provider anymore. And deep down in their bones, they know, I can't afford to be the provider. I think it helps women to look at a man's shoes. Like, imagine that you're courting a woman. Imagine you're a gay woman or you're a man. And you think, okay, you know your finances, you know your earning capability, you know how much housing costs, you know if you even have car insurance, health insurance, how stable your job is, where your income potential is. And now you think about going on and dating and what you can really afford. And are you going to spend more than you can really afford? Are you going to set the expectation that you're going to pay always? Because a lot of these women the guys are dating are earning as much or more as they are, or earning as much. So it really kind of shifts the power balance a lot more, especially when men already feel like I can barely afford my own life. See, when men were paying for women, they had money. The men had money and they wanted to pay because they had an abundance of money. Now, a lot of men are struggling. They do not have an abundance of money. And even if they have money, it's because they're living in an apartment. In most major cities, it takes like let's say the average guy earns $60,000 a year. At that, he could have bought a house in the 80s. Now, he can't buy a house ever. And now he's supposed to take a woman out. He doesn't want to. He doesn't have an abundance. He is choking economically. So this is what you guys have to understand about the younger people. Even the young couples that I know that are buying houses, both people work. It's very rare to find a guy that can afford to buy a house in a major city and he's the sole provider. It's very rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's very rare. So I do not think you guys should be coming down on guys who don't want to pay. They can't afford to. Not because they're lazy, but because of the high cost of housing. Can't afford to. I feel the same way about sex. I do not think women should lead with sex. I have a saying that men do not lead with your wallets, women do not lead with your sexuality. I do not think women should lead with sex. I think that people ought to be authentic, pay when you want, have sex when you want, not out of pressure, out of guilt, out of some social standards, because then you'll just be resentful. And you can be used. You will be resentful because you're being used. But, we all set ourselves up for being used. And that's like the women who have sex right away. They don't understand that a guy who's into them will not pressure them for sex. If he's pressuring you, he's a vagina hunter, which means he's just using you as an ejaculation device. He might as well have a blow-up doll. And when women are pressuring you to pay for them, they're wallet hunters. They're money hunters. But let's see, what's the word for women? They want your wallet. They're just wallet grabbers. They just want your money. They're money grabbers. Vagina hunters, money hunters. I guess they call them gold diggers, but I knew a guy years ago who said, "Oh, I take these beautiful women on dates." He was working in New York City at the time on Wall Street, and he said, "I took this woman out for a date. She ordered the most expensive thing on the menu every time I took her out, and she never cooked for me." I'm like, yeah, why'd you pick someone like that? But she was hot. She was beautiful. So that's the thing and then women, he set himself up for that, to be used. And some women test themselves up to be used for their vaginas, and it all comes from people being inauthentic. Like, the guy should pay. Now, if the guy wants to pay, that's a different story. I am all for people being authentic. I'm kind of promoting authenticity here. So, it's just a good reflection. If you're a guy, to say, do I want to pay? And for the woman to say, does this guy want to pay? Or do I feel like I owe him? Or why is he paying? To just wonder. Because I would wonder. And by the way, every time I've gone to dinner with a guy who paid, here's the other thing. When people aren't being authentic, you kind of disrespect them. So the woman who's like, oh, I had 6 or 7 days, I gave him my cheek, I bet she disrespects and despises him. Because you will despise people you disrespect. I bet she despises him as he's taking me on all these dates and all I'm giving him is a kiss, that little piece of shit. I would think that. Why is he putting up with that? It's abusive, frankly, I think. I could be reading it wrong. I'm just here, a woman in a room making video, But, it's great to have people pay. It's great to it's great to have people pay and not have to do anything. It's great for everyone to do all the work. but there's a price to pay for that. The person is maybe inauthentic. If there's inauthenticity, there's a price there. I just think that times have really changed. When I was dating my ex-husband, he paid for everything. But then I was married to a guy who paid for everything, and I lost my power. And I didn't feel like I could speak up, and he resented me. That's the place I'm coming from. And I talk to guys who don't lead with their wallet. And a woman is into a guy, she'll see him, even if he's not paying. If a guy you were really into asked you out, you would go, even if he's not paying. I rest assured, if a guy you really wanted, these women who are like, oh, a guy has to take me to dinner, I'm putting on all my hair. If some famous celebrity or that you were really into asked you out and he wasn't paying, I bet you would go. I think it's a good test for a woman that if I'm only going to go out if he's paying, maybe I don't really like the guy. Or it could also be a defense mechanism. I will say this. The woman that I went out with to the bars, I've kept up with her over the years. The one that always want men to pay, she still always wants men to pay. She has a daddy issue because, according to her, like her dad really ignored her, was really mean to her, never paid for her. So she's projecting her unmet daddy issues onto these men. So ladies, be really careful. If you're looking for a daddy figure, that's fine if he wants to be your daddy. But all of her relationships have gone wrong. She's my age, but she's never been able to sustain a relationship because she gets so demanding and entitled. And she has a really good career now, but she still argues with guys about who's paying the groceries because she has this thing about money. It's this internal. I think it's good to do some internal work around, why do I need this guy to pay? What is the hook? And a lot of times it's a daddy issue. I need someone to provide for me. I need this man to prove to me. I think the man should pay. It's like the guys who are entitled to sex. The woman should have sex with me. I married her. I'm entitled to it. This isn't. I guess what I have trouble with is the entitlement part. There's a rigidity around the entitlement. It doesn't feel to me like it's loving. That's what I want to say. I myself do not like guys to just pay for me. I'm not that way. I had gone out to lunch with this gentleman and I kind of liked him. And he had added some value professionally to my life, some things I was researching. So when we went to dinner, I paid and I wanted to pay. I had great pleasure in paying, and the dinner was more than the lunch. I wanted to pay, So that's being authentic. It's like, I want to pay. It gave me a feeling of power, and I wanted to show my appreciation to this guy. I'm not afraid to pay. I would only do it for some, and I'd met this guy a few times before, and he had added some value to my life, but I never even kissed this guy. So I've always been the kind that I will also pay, and if I like the guy and he's added value to my life, I'll pay. Yeah, so that's just me. We're all different, and the fun thing about these videos is we can share different perspectives. There's a woman who has a channel on, how to dress and great manners and stuff to attract rich men. That's what she's into, and her videos are interesting too. There's no right or wrong. Don't get mad at me or whatever. I mean, we're just sharing different views. I am just a woman who doesn't like to take advantage of men. I like things to be equal because I care about the man. I don't want to use men. I don't want to use men. That's my thing. And I don't want them to use me. That's just my thing. So I'm a little bit more sensitive to that, maybe, because I have seen how men feel when they're used. And I don't want to do that to someone. And I really do not see why a man would relish paying more than a coffee or something to a woman he doesn't know. and keep taking her on dates and just get a kiss on the cheek. I don't see what kind of man would find that great, because it's one thing if it's like a traditional relationship where both people are like very religious and they're going to get married and the wife's going to homeschool and stuff like that, and they're going to be celibate until marriage, and it's like one of those, they both want that, and I do not know what percentage of men want that. If they're financially secure and they're religious, then I would bet my stakes that they would want that. If they're financially successful, if they can, and they're religious or somehow conservative, and somehow. But other than that, I don't think so. I don't think so. So, thank you for watching my video, and I look forward to reading the comments. By the way, if you want to send me an email that I reply to, you can do that. Go to the profile of my YouTube channel, and there's information on how you can do that. It's $50. Else, if you email me, I'm not going to read it. You can leave anything you want in the comments. I read the comments. If you want a personal reply to your email, please send me the $50. And that's out of respect for yourself and out of respect for me. But again, the videos are free. And thank you for watching.